What is up guys, welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm going to be refreshing my $800 gaming PC build for the latter part of 2019 and as we head into 2020, which is crazy to say. So make sure you smash that like button, but let's get straight into it. This video was made possible by Squarespace. Learn more at the link in the description below. Now in my typical style, we're going to kick it off with the CPU and the motherboard that I opted to go for. Starting off with the motherboard, this is a brand new product from MSI. It's their B450M Pro VDH Max. Now that Max is actually very important. It's not just some marketing lingo, and it means that this board supports out of the box the 3rd gen Ryzen chips. MSI have actually taken the hassle out of it for us and got that motherboard BIOS ready, which is a much safer option than going for maybe a slightly cheaper motherboard that doesn't have that assurance and then being a little bit caught. The CPU that I've opted to choose that we're going to install into our motherboard is the AMD Ryzen 5 3600. Installing a Ryzen CPU is really easy. Line up the triangle on the CPU with the triangle on your socket and drop, quite literally, not from height though, just gently drop the CPU into place. You can then pop the arm down, no force, no pressure required. It really is as simple as that. For the CPU cooler, I've elected to keep it nice and simple with the included Ryzen stock cooler. This is actually made, I believe, by Cooler Master and is fantastic, far better than the options Intel include for free with some, not all of their processors. It isn't going to give you much overclocking headroom, but then again, neither is this motherboard. That's the difference between a cheaper Max board and a more expensive Max board, is the amount of overclocking legs you're going to have. So let's pop this on. The next thing that we're going to install while our motherboard is still out of the case and easy to access is the memory. And I keep coming back to this RAM time and time again, purely because it's such good value for money. This 16GB kit of T-Force Delta RGB comes in clocked at about 3000 MHz. And this motherboard config with its 4 RAM DIMM slots and 2 DIMMs will give us some dual channel performance as well, which never hurts. Installing memory is another thing that's really easy. Line up the notch just here on your memory with the equivalent one on your motherboard. And even pressure to both sides will secure it nicely in place. It's then a case of repeating for as many DIMMs as you're installing. And that really all there is to it. Now that our motherboard is in a fairly advanced state in the grand scheme of things, we're going to move it into the case. The first thing you want to do with any case is take off the panels. So I've taken off this rear side panel and the tempered glass panel up front, and that will make our case much easier to work in. You then want to take your motherboard's I/O shield, which is this thing, and clip it into the back of the chassis. If you forget to do this now, then you're going to have a headache later on. This case from Phanteks is their P360X, and it's actually a pretty new chassis. It's got a bit of RGB up front, which should look really good through these little gaps here. It's got decent airflow by the looks of it. The build quality is really solid. And it comes with this, which is like a toolkit, I believe, that has like a screwdriver and like Allen keys and other stuff. I don't know if I'm going to need it, but it's a pretty cool inclusion nevertheless. We're then going to lay the case down flat because it's going to be easier to install the motherboard and hover this over the standoffs. This will then give us an idea of whether all the necessary standoffs are already screwed in. Which we can do just like so with a set of pliers. You've just got to be a little bit patient at this point, which I'm not very good at. I've just remembered. You don't need the pliers because the toolkit, everything you need is in the toolkit. Should have realised. Okay then, with our motherboard in the case, I decided to take the front panel off to get easier access to our hard drive cage, which I'll come on to in a second because there's something a bit special. But taking that front panel off gives you a really good insight to the RGB that actually is on here. So we've got two strips, one down either side, and then actually like a cordless method of connecting the front panel to the front of the case, which means when you yank this off, you're not going to break any wiring and thus bugger up your RGB. Now, the reason that I wanted easier access to the front hard drive cage is because I'm going to be installing our storage for this build, which actually comes solely in the form of an SSD. This is a Sandisk SSD Plus, and whilst it's not the fastest SSD in the world by any means, it's 1TB, comes in under $100, and is going to be way faster than any hard drive option. In a build like this, it seems silly to keep going for a hard drive and an SSD when you could get a 1TB SSD drive for basically the same price, if not less. The next component I'm going to install is our power supply. This is an 80+ gold certified, so it's highly efficient MWE 650 power supply from Cooler Master. One of the best things about this unit as well is its fully modular interface. That means you only plug in the cables you need. Talking of cables, the included cables with this unit are individually sleeved rubber black cables, which look way better than those you'll find on cheaper power supplies. In this particular build, we need one CPU power cable, one motherboard 20+ 4-pin power cable. We need a 6+ 2-pin PCIe power cable for our graphics card. And finally, a SATA power cable to power up the RGB on the front of our case and our SSD as well. Oh, and we need the actual power supply, and I'd recommend popping in all the cables first and then screwing it in because it's going to be way less fiddly. One of the things I do actually really rate here, and I forgot Phanteks did so well, it's been ages since I built in one of their chassis, is these cable management channels with the Velcro straps. It's going to make cable management look so clean in this system, just wait and see. With all but one of our components left to install, all that's left is this, the graphics card. Now this here is the Powercolor Red Devil RX 590. Now the RX 590 is the ultimate 1440p card if you're on any sort of budget really. At just over $200, this beats out anything Nvidia have got to offer, and I'm including in that statement the new 1660 Super. I'm a massive fan of Nvidia graphics cards, but at this price segment, they haven't got anything that competes, which means, once again, it's an all AMD build, which is happening more and more, and you know what? I'm not mad about it, so let's pop it in. And just like that, it's all built up, all assembled and ready to go. All that's left to do is tidy those cables up a little bit and see just how good this system looks. I'm then going to install some games on this machine to see how it really performs and what kind of results you could expect if you built this at home. But first, a message from today's video sponsor. From blog websites, portfolios, online stores and more, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that lets you build a beautiful online presence. Fully responsive, completely customizable modern templates let you showcase what you or your business does best front and center. Great SEO tools make sure your website gets seen, and full social media integration plants you firmly in the 21st century. The built-in commerce tools open the door for a world of selling possibilities. With unlimited products, subscription support, multiple payment methods including Apple Pay and countless currencies, the possibilities really are endless. head over to squarespace.com to learn more than I could possibly fit in a minute. And for your free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your beautiful site, head to squarespace.com/GeekaWhat, the first link in the description below, to save 10% on your first website or domain. There really is no easier way to get up and running with a website for you or your business, with the all-in-one marketing, analytics, hosting, domain, and website building tools from Squarespace. Now, as you've seen, this system looks nothing short of fantastic, but just how well does it perform? Well, 1440p is the key sweet spot resolution for a system like this. At high settings, you're going to see consistently 60 frames per second in some of the latest AAA titles and some of the most popular games respectively. Overwatch is a great example. You're going to see 60-70 frames per second at 1440p high and ultra settings. It's a similar story jumping over to something like Rainbow Six Siege, where you're going to see consistent 60-70 frames per second at high and ultra settings 1440p. 4K gaming on this machine is definitely possible, though you will have to sacrifice some settings and perhaps tone down the frame rate just a little bit, considering how much of a bigger jump it is from 1440p to 4K than 1080 to 1440p is. In really popular titles such as Grand Theft Auto 5, you're also going to see great performance at 80-90 frames per second at 1440p high settings the majority of the time, and a game such as Forza Hirzon 4, which is really buggy but one of my favourite games of this year, or favourite games ever to be fair, is going to work really well, locked in at that 60 FPS mark with some incredible looking graphics. It's incredible how far graphics cards in this $200–220 price range have progressed in the last couple of years. Just 18 months or 2 years ago, a GTX 1060 was a 1080p card at medium to high settings, and to think now 1440p and a bit of 4K gaming is feasible is just incredible. But what about some of the other titles, the likes of Call of Duty's Black Ops 4, Battlefield 5, CSGO, of course a hugely popular game, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, I could go on. Well, not to worry, a lot of those games are going to work great at 1440p high settings with around 100 frames per second, or even 4K hitting that 60 FPS marker. But that, I think, just about wraps it up for today's video. If you did enjoy it, you got any questions, anything like that, drop a comment and make sure to like today's video. It really does help me out. Get subscribed and ding dong that notification bell so you never miss another video. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next GeekaWhat video.